Welcome everybody to Tropical Weather Update. It is around 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Saturday, August the 3rd. This update is for Tropical Depression 4, soon to become Tropical Storm Debby, and threaten some part of the western coast of Florida. Right now, we don't have too much to show you. This is the infrared or the clean wave, clean long wave satellite view showing basically just a disturbance over Cuba. They have named it a tropical depression so they can track it. But if you look at it, there's really not much to see here. It's a broad level, a broad area of low pressure over the western portion of Cuba. But all the models show this moving into the Gulf of Mexico and strengthening. And at this time of year, and I'm going to show you, the National Hurricane Center says it's moving into favorable conditions. A storm can intensify relatively rapidly. So interests along the western coast of Florida and the Florida Panhandle need to keep a very close eye on this storm as it's going to approach fairly quickly by late Sunday. Let's take a look at some of the statistics here. This is the National Hurricane Center's actual forecast map, and they have it coming very early on Monday morning, approaching the Big Bend area of Florida, around the Steinhatchee area, kind of similar to the hurricane that hit last year. But they do show it as an S on the map, meaning it's still going to be a tropical storm according to their prediction. But better safe than sorry, they have issued hurricane watches in that pink shaded area. So if we look at the actual advisory, there is a hurricane watch in effect from the Aucilla River to Yankeetown. I couldn't really find either of those on the map. I don't know where they come up with these names from, but it's really this Alligator Point area to Cedar Key area that they believe is the most likely area of landfall for this storm. The tracks have been shifting more westward, though. Earlier yesterday, it was looking more like a Tampa, or Cedar Key landfall. Now it's moved to the Steinhatchee Fish Creek area, but some models have it making landfall as far west as Alligator Point. Because the track is shifting to the west, if I were in Tallahassee or anywhere in the Florida Panhandle, maybe from Apalachicola this way, I would be keeping a very close eye on this storm. So let's go ahead and we'll look at some of the maps. Let me read to you from the National Weather Service discussion as to what they think the strength of this storm might be. After the system crosses Cuba and emerges over the eastern Gulf of Mexico, the environmental and oceanic conditions appear favorable for intensification. So that's pretty key. At this time of year, if the conditions, whether it be shear and the upper atmosphere, are favorable for strengthening, we've seen storms go from tropical storm to Category 4 hurricanes within 2 days. So, it says here the latest NHC forecast shows it becoming a tropical storm by tonight with additional strengthening expected while it moves across deep warm waters in a weak shear environment. So the regional hurricane models and statistical guidance continue to indicate some potential for the system to reach hurricane strength before it makes landfall. Although the latest NHC forecast does not explicitly show the cyclone becoming a hurricane, note that additional strengthening could occur between 48 to 60 hours. So, me, as someone who lives in Florida and seen hurricanes go from tropical storms to strong hurricanes fairly quickly, if they're saying it's in a very favorable environment for strengthening, I don't see any reason why this could not become a hurricane, maybe even a strong hurricane by the time it makes impact, especially because the track now has it further off the coast of Florida, deeper into the Gulf of Mexico, giving it more time to strengthen. So, again, let's look at some of the map guidance here, some of the track guidance. This is from tropicaltidbits.com. Put a reference in the description of my video. This is the current model tracks, a whole bunch of different hurricane models, and you can see they go from about that Apalachicola area all the way over to the Cedar Key area. So the National Hurricane Center basically put it a little bit on the right side of this track. Usually they put it in the center. If you were going to put it in the center, you would go with the Fish Creek area, somewhere in that area. Let's look at the GFS model and see what it predicts. And it has it approaching approximately where the National Hurricane Center has it, approaching around the Steinhatchee area. And that would be around Monday at 03Z, which I believe is about Sunday night at 11 p.m., making landfall sometime on Monday morning. That's consistent with the National Hurricane Center forecast. But if we look at the HWRF hurricane model, and we're going to zoom this forward, they have it approaching the Alligator Point area at about 982 millibars, and this is about 6Z Monday, so that would take a little longer to get to that location than it would to get to the Steinhatchee area. So, but it still would be around 2 o'clock in the morning on Monday, probably a little stronger hurricane approaching further west. So these are the two tracks I just looked at. There's a whole bunch of different ones, and I showed you some of these other ones here. So really, this is the range of guidance at this point. But again, these models are based on taking a mass of storms that right now does not look that organized and moving it. Once the storm gets organized, the models become more accurate because you have an actual center of circulation. Here, the center of circulation is so broad, and the storm activity in the upper atmosphere is disorganized. When the storm becomes more organized, I think we'll have a better indication of the track. Right now, I think that there's a great deal of uncertainty. Looking, though, back at the National Hurricane Center's forecast, it does have it making landfall. Wherever it makes landfall, probably by Tuesday, it's going to be outside of Florida by 2 a.m. Tuesday, and by Wednesday, somewhere near North Carolina, either offshore or onshore. But you can see it slows down at that point because the steering currents are fairly weak once it gets to and makes landfall on the Florida Big Bend area somewhere. And even by Thursday, it's not that much further away. It's in the South Carolina area. So expect a lot of rain in the Georgia and South Carolina and extreme North Florida area from anywhere from Sunday night all the way through Thursday. And depending on where it makes landfall, they had previously had it making landfall around Tampa and going across the state of Florida. That would have been worse for Central Florida, and it would have been worse for the South Carolina, North Carolina area because it would have emerged into the Atlantic Ocean, at which point it could have strengthened even further. Right now it shows it hugging the coast based on this track, and even a further western track would make it even further inland, therefore reducing any chance of it strengthening and becoming a dangerous hurricane that would threaten North Carolina. But that's too far away to forecast at this point. The intensity guidance, similar to what the National Hurricane Center is saying, that it will be a tropical storm upon landfall. Only one of the models has it becoming a hurricane. Again, though, I just don't see any reason, if they're saying it's in a low wind shear, warm water area of the Gulf of Mexico, why it couldn't become a hurricane by the time it makes landfall. And right now, based on it being a tropical storm, it has the storm surge forecast in a very storm surge favorable area of Florida. The west coast of Florida is prone to storm surge. They have it at 3 to 5 feet at this point. Obviously, this could be updated if the storm gets stronger prior to landfall. And again, I'm saying that if it continues to shift to the west, I think we have a more dangerous situation because we have warmer waters. It has more opportunity to strengthen from a longer period of time, and with instead of when it's hugging the coast, it's not drawing as much moisture in from the Gulf of Mexico. If it stays further offshore and threatens the Florida Panhandle, I think we might have a stronger hurricane here. So I think all interests in the state of Florida, in the Florida Panhandle and central and northern Florida, need to keep a very close eye on this storm in the next few days. I'll do another update once it becomes a stronger tropical storm or hurricane, and hopefully it doesn't. If it stays weak, I won't even do another video because we'll basically have just a rain event here. But I will keep a close eye on this, and I advise anybody living in the Florida, in the entire state of Florida really, to keep a very close eye on this storm. Thanks for tuning in, and stay safe, everybody, and keep an eye out for any further updates. Thank you.